parties to rise up. This is completely false because they themselves say that, and it's something that is very obvious, that people protest to already remove these autocratic systems. Like there's a very low chance that these autocratic systems will appear again since people are actively like trying to remove it. People don't want this anymore. We have parties like the NTP where like they don't have any big leaders, they don't have like any like main people that are popular, yet they're still one of the main contenders in this election. That on its own proves that BB is moving away from its like autocratic past. Secondly, they tell us that we'll read that first, that people like this. First, this is a long process. It's really going to be a very long process. That is going to take time later. People need time for this. And second, they need resources for it. They need time, they need money. They tell us that first, it's urgent and it's something that they should focus on in the first place. Why is that? Because every side in this debate already told you that people are unaware of this article in the first place. They don't care about this article at all. They don't even know that it exists. I don't know why it's an urgent problem. If one, people don't know about it, and two, people don't even directly affected by it in any way. Thirdly, they tell us that you don't need money either because people will help you in the reform. Okay, first, you obviously need money. You're making a reform happen. You're making an article change. You're going to need at least a few resources. And secondly, even if you don't need resources, you still need time. You can't change the timeline. The timeline is still going to exist no matter what. In that timeline, I'll be saying this later on. I'll be going more in depth into this later on. In that timeline, you're going to have more laws. You're going to get more you're going to have no large work. You're not going to fix much bigger ones. You're going to have to bear the opportunity cost of using up all this time on this one single part. Not now. Okay. And yeah, you're also going to need money because you're not doing it on your own. You're hiring a bunch of technocrats to do it for you. You're hiring a group of technocrats. You're going to pay a lot of money for those technocrats in the first place. You will need money, and more importantly, you will most definitely need time over anything else. You'll need time money. And what does OG tell us? They tell us that people want the interim government to stay. People want you to stay, and that is why they will be okay with the interim government's argument. OG tells you that first, people don't want you to use they're not a leader they want to bring in. They just want a government to stay. They don't specifically want this type of interim government to control that. Means that they still haven't completely acknowledged that. They still don't completely trust this interim government. They still wouldn't exactly be okay with this interim government making a constitution change. And lastly, on this clash on why it is principally unjust. As I just said, people didn't vote in this interim government in power before it.
I don't understand why people need to know about the law's existence in order for it to specifically harm them. But also, we already tell you that we should create awareness because simply repealing it is going to be big news and people are going to know about it through the fact that it has been repealed.
I just don't want to talk about why it is important to hear just first.
The first part is I don't think it's absolutely necessary for everyone to know about a particular law in order for it to be effective.
Even if people don't know about this article, it still exists. It's still something that exists in the Constitution. When you vote in the government, you're not aware of you're not aware of every article and that they you don't know what they like. You just trust that they will do good for you. You don't know the specifics that they will do. You trust that they will do good for you. That is not something you're getting with this interim government because you didn't bring them to power. Meaning that when the interim government removes this constitution, they're not justified in any way. It's not fair in any way because they don't have the trust of the people. They don't have the permission of the people at all. Unlike a normal government, that it isn't justified in any way for them to make this repeal happen. Why are we better off than the other side? We're the only side. Actually, before that, on what argument about voters are not being worse and why it actually matters. So we tell you that if I go to an election, I'm gonna vote for my party and I see the MP of my party, of my area, either abstaining from voting or trying to vote for another party, which is like hint that why very people like happen because of how corrupt the Bangladeshi political system is. Right, will happen. People won't go. When you see this, you yourself will be confused. You yourself won't be exactly sure of why you wanna. Now, if you make that you won't be sure if you want to actually vote for this party since you see the enemy of your area isn't voting for them in the first place. What are the impacts? One is that there's a misallocation, basically a raw vote where you're like unjustly taking votes from other parties. This is something that people already have protested against in the past against the Young regime. Secondly, as Army told you, the status quo will get worse. People will lawlessness will go in place. There will be less law enforcement because you're spending all of the time on repeal instead of other stuff. And lastly, why it's so important, because the whole point of interim government is to make sure that there is a smooth election. When people themselves are confused about like which party they should vote for, what is actually happening in this election, that is not a good election. The whole purpose of the interim government is like completely like destroyed, right? So yeah, and then right government, we're the only party that can talk about repeal. We talk about how the repeal system will be happening, about why it's bad. Secondly, we give a proper extension on why voter turnout is not good. We give a proper extension of why elections work, why elections and why it matters, because that is the job of the government. And lastly, we win the clash on principle justification of